Then you have against the Jets,
That's an L.
Against the Jets, which is potentially for the AFC East.
That's an L.
Then you play at the Texans.
That's an L.
Then you play Niners, the 425.
That's an L.
You have the Niners 425 solo game. You have the Browns Sunday
That's
Night
an
Football.
L.
And then you have the Jets, which is most likely going to be a night game.
This is the worst pitch I've ever heard in my life.
Let me pick.
Three of us were tasked with one thing. Do your homework. Come with one NFL MVP bet. And maybe as we do this exercise, hopefully someone is persuaded on or off a certain bet. Maybe we could convince you to jump on one of our sides. I feel like this might be a defiant group, so I don't have too much hope for all of you. But listen, the NFL MVP, you are this is an awards market, right? And when you're handicapping an award, it's not just a who's him conversation, right? We all know Patrick Mahomes is good. It's will the 50 writers tasked with voting on this award, who are they going to vote as the MVP? I think that's where the conversation starts with the guy at the top of the board, Patrick Mahomes, plus 500. He's already won a couple of these things. Can he do it again for the 2024 season? Better question is it worth betting this guy at 5-1? My inclination is I want to scroll right past it.
Yeah, I agree. I think even if you think Mahomes is going to win the MVP, I would be willing to bet that there will be a point during the season that you can get him at better than 5-1. So betting him before the season, unless he goes wire to wire MVP favorite, it just isn't the bet for me.
He said at training camp that the Chiefs offense feels this urge to get going because it was really the defense that carried them for most of the season last year. I hate Mahomes at 5-1. Is that insane to say? I was actually shocked when I saw he was the overwhelming favorite. I don't get it. I don't think that the pieces they added on offense are that overwhelmingly good. And you just see what happens when you invest that much in a quarterback and you have the defense taking up a lot of that salary cap. So I hated Patrick Mahomes at 5-1.
I think I tend to agree with you. Probably the best argument, well, there's a lot of arguments for Patrick Mahomes. One of them is he's going to have to carry a lot of the load, right? It is because of the way they've spent, because of, again, the nature of what he does. He has, if the Chiefs are doing well, that's probably the guy responsible for it.
Is it though? The defense I actually give so much credit to last year. And let's reference what you did at the top of the show. Patrick Mahomes, what's the expectation? What's the bar, right? What's the narrative? Okay, he's a 3-time champion. So similar to LeBron James, how do you convince people that he's the most valuable player in the league year in, year out when we know he's the best quarterback in the world?
I agree. It's a big thing is like, what do people think going into the season? And then did he exceed expectations or not? And with him, it would probably be higher than plus 500 odds for Mahomes to have the best season of his career. And I think we're looking at a situation to where he probably needs to have one of the best seasons of his entire career if he's going to win the MVP. And I think the chances of that are lower than with no Tyreek and no Travis Kelce in his prime. The chances of that are slim.
I said the same thing in the NHL with Connor McDavid. This guy has a different bar that he has to leap over than everybody else. And it almost actually happened because they started the season so poorly that he got to, I guess, make it even more difficult on himself, and he was still in the running. So, honestly, the best thing for Patrick Mahomes would be for his team to start 0-4, 1-5, something along those lines.
And then you get him at a better
number. And then we
number.
get the better value.
Yeah.
So, I think we all in agreement.
Hate that.
Pass.
I hate that we're all in agreement. We're going to be in many disagreements during the show, and I think right here, plus 900 is where we get started.
Listen, if Patrick Mahomes wins at 5-1, right, from the preseason odds, I don't want to. I'm fine not tying up futures money for 5 months, whatever it is, on a 5-1 bet. So that's where we move. It gets a little longer. Josh Allen at 9-1. The Bills, obviously, I'd say the big headline is losing Stephon Diggs. I'm not to go Colin Cowherd here. I think that helps him.
Yeah, I agree.
You think from an actual football X's and O's or from this conversation?
Probably this conversation.
Okay, I'm aligned on that.
So the way I look at this is the only player who I'd be willing to tie my money up in out of the top 8 options because of what you just said. Again, media narrative-driven award, and you have someone who... everyone is saying this could be the year that the Bills fall off, and everyone's saying it's Josh Allen carrying them to be good or it's nothing at all. Mm-hmm. So I actually think if he is the one that carries this offense with a ton of question marks, no Gabe Davis, no Stephon Diggs, he is the best value. You know he's going to be running all over the place, doing crazy plays, and this is the one where it actually fits what the writers can write about, where it's like Josh Allen is essentially Superman. He took a team of no ones to another AFC East division. If he wins the division with a healthy Rodgers and a Tua, that's a serious...
And a Tua.
And a Tua.
And the Dolphins.
And a healthy Jacoby Brissett.
Right. At plus 900, you also have Joe Burrow here. I'm all in on Josh Allen. I agree with you. It's the one guy I'm betting at the top of the board. If I were, I'm not going to do it because I also think his standard is incredibly high. And I actually do think they've lost a lot of pieces. That's going to make the Bills a 10-win team and not the 12 or 13 possibly needed here. Can someone explain Joe Burrow to me at 9-1? What is the Joe Burrow love? He's played 4 or 5 seasons, and now he's had one good season. He's been armed with weapons throughout his entire career. He went to 1 Super Bowl. He made this incredible run. He's cool. I get that. But why Burrow at 9-1? Like, why is he above C.J. Stroud or Lamar Jackson? That's what I'm struggling to understand.
First off, I want to touch on Allen again. Win total, 10.5. So, the odds makers are saying, look, this could still be an 11-6 team, despite, again, losing the weapons on the outside. Allen is probably the most fun MVP bet towards the top of the board because he's just an incredible guy to root for week in, week out. And that, I'm sorry, part of my math, I want to be sharp. I want to be I'm trying to win betting the NFL, but it is something to be watching Allen on Red Zone every Sunday, and, maybe he goes and rushes the rock 35 times in the snow.
And I will say he's the one guy at the top of the board that I wouldn't wait on because I actually think if he gets to 20-1, that means the Bills are bad. Yep. And that means I'm probably not investing at any price. So that's something to be conscious of as well. I agree with you. He's fun. Is Burrow fun? I've never gotten the appeal of Joe Burrow.
Is there anything, and this is a question, is there anything to be said about how the Bengals still had success with him once he was injured, to where they are obviously better with Joe Burrow, but there wasn't the massive decline and nosedive that people were expecting from the Bengals once he got injured? Does that hurt his chances at all?
I don't think it has any effect.
Okay.
I don't think it has any effect. Talk about a guy with a strong narrative towards him.
Yeah.
Is Joe Burrow.
Joe Cool, as some call him.
Like, it's easy. I don't have a ton of problems with it. I think this is still one of the most difficult divisions in football.
Yep.
And I really don't want to tie up things in this division because I think, honestly, anything can happen.
In the division, I just looked at the board. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, C.J. Stroud, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. The top 6 favorites for MVP are in one conference. I just noticed that, and I think even more so than the division. How do you win this award? You get the 1 or the 2 seed.
Correct.
And who's getting the 1 or the 2 seed in the AFC? I think it probably leaves some NFC value.
The offensive line is also a concern with the Bengals, right? It's always been, can they keep the guy upright for a long enough time for the entirety of the campaign? Like I said, because of this division, I still don't feel great about 10-1.
I've also heard rumblings.
Here we go.
News?
I've heard rumblings.
Your friend's cousin knows
I've
what.
I've heard rumblings that Burrow, the injury is not one that can be fully repaired. Obviously, with medicine and doctors these days, it's as close as it's going to get.
What do you know about medicine and doctors?
With where we were at in 2024, but I have heard that he is not 100% healthy with that elbow. That's what I've heard.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I don't think that I trust your medical opinion on these things from your friend's cousin.
I think you should.
But what I do know is he did get a long leash last year with poor performance and everyone being like, oh, well, he's hurt. He's coming back from the Achilles or the calf.
Everyone wants him to be good.
They do, which, once again,
is a good thing,
is a good thing for this award.
Because he gets hyped up when he pays that off.
Tim, can you get us into a discussion where we're in disagreement, please? Because I feel like we're all way too aligned here.
Yes, we can do that. I guess the case for Cincy or Joe to close this off is they had one of the toughest schedules in the league last year. They did upgrade or tried to upgrade at the offensive line position going in to next season. Added Trent Brown. They used a draft pick on an offensive lineman.
And a fourth place schedule.
So
Nice dig.
wow,
nice dig. Nice dig at the Bengals.
did you write that on your hand? All right. Now it gets interesting. CJ Stroud, obviously a tremendous season last year in the rookie campaign. Talks of, could we get a sophomore slump? I think.
Really? Is that the talks that you've been saying?
That's the talks in my head.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm in agreement with you there. I feel like the talk is it's all things go for CJ Stroud. You add Diggs to Tank and Nico Collins. Is this the easiest fade on the board for anyone else to me? Like, I agree with you. Second year, teams adjust. He looked incredible. But once again, I actually think with his weapons, do you fall into a Brock Purdy conversation? A little bit. Not entirely, but a little bit.
I don't think you fall into a Brock Purdy conversation, but I think it goes back to maybe a Mahomes conversation about, like, what are the expectations heading into the season and what can Stroud really do to exceed those expectations? They're the most talked about offense in the entire NFL. Everyone is so excited to see what he's going to do in year 2 with more weapons. And even if he doesn't regress, if he puts together the same type of season, that's still not going to win him MVP. So I just don't see any way outside of the Texans being the 1 seed and him somehow throwing more touchdowns and less interceptions.
But I think that's on the table.
Like, I'm the biggest CJ Stroud fan in the room. You see my shirt. I'm a Buckeye. But it just seems like he would have to put together the best sophomore season maybe ever to win MVP with the expectations for that offense.
I think what you said is good there. We like all these players.
Yeah, I think Stroud's going to be brilliant.
We like all these players. It's, do we want to bet them at the number? And you are trying to poke, tiny little holes in all of these, reasons why you would want to bet them. We would all take CJ Stroud on our team.
100%.
Oh, Lamar Jackson. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean.
No, I wouldn't take him over Lamar, but he's a top 5 quarterback in my opinion already.
We agree. Yeah, we agree on that. I think Houston last year benefited, and I don't know if we were so engulfed with the surprise of this team that we tended to overlook that they had the easiest schedule in terms of their opponent's quarterbacks.
Okay.
Right? Which obviously, in the NFL can be half the game, the schedule. They also ran the ball really well, which gave Stroud more opportunities. That plus the fact that there could be, again, not to get too radio first takey here, there could be too many cooks in the kitchen in terms of the weapons.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about bringing in. I don't think Diggs is a diva. I think something went wrong in Buffalo. But people think.
I think Diggs is a diva.
Okay, you bring in a diva.
I think I'd rank him like one of my top 5.
Okay, maybe he's a diva, and then in the back of Stroud's head, he's not just trying to get completions and succeed for his team. He's trying to spread the wealth between all the weapons, and that's a problem in itself.
We do a lot of devil's advocating and poking holes in these players. I will make a bull case for CJ Stroud. You're saying he'd have to have one of the best second seasons ever. Okay.
You think
he's a top 5 quarterback. Mm-hmm. You think that he's got 3 of the best weapons in the NFL.
Plays in the dome.
You think he plays in the dome. You also think the Texans are good. DeMeco Ryans is a
great.
Good football coach, and the defense was spectacular last year. And they went to the playoffs in his rookie year, and they lost to Baltimore, and they learned a lot from that experience. I think there is a bull case. The reason why I would not make this bet is because he's grouped into a group that just they all have those similar kind of bull cases.
I just have this thing stuck in my head where it's like, what are the headlines? It's a writer's award. What are the headlines?
I could see
the
CJ
Texans
winning.
Are supposed to be good, and it's like, CJ's great, Texans are great, it's all great. They're just waiting for him to trip up, and it's like, did we overrate Stroud? Is it all too much for him? Like, all those, I feel like they're going to be waiting to tear him down.
Do you think they could get the 1 seed?
Because whenever
though?
something goes good, they want to tear him down. Do I think Houston could get the 1 seed?
I just want to correct one thing. I said that Houston ran the ball well last year. They tried to run the ball last year. All right, they were on early downs. They were committed to running the ball, which gave C.J. Stroud essentially a lot of 3rd and long opportunities to shine. So that actually, again, helped C.J. Stroud's MVP case.
Yeah.
Do they run the ball better next year? and take less off of his plate. Again, this is your crown jewel part of your franchise.
Yeah.
So, you can't drop this guy back a million times, Madden style, and just chuck the rock.
And he did hit a bunch of those over the top, down the seams. And a note of the guy at the top of the board, Patrick Mahomes. Once teams started to see Mahomes beat him over top, they said, just dink and dunk me.
Dink us underneath.
And that's not sexy. And a young quarterback, it took Mahomes a while to adjust to that, and he obviously mastered it. Maybe CJ has some struggles there. So are we all off CJ Stroud at 10-1?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a strong.
I think there's a path. I'll get there.
By all means, again, love the guy. Would take him on my team. I think I do have a take on this. One of the worst things you could do for a young quarterback is to bring in a polarizing, to say the least, receiver. Guy that wants the rock. I think that could be Dak Prescott, I believe, recently said that having Dez early in his career was, he felt a lot of pressure to get the guy the ball. And maybe CJ Stroud isn't like that, but to me, it's in my math. It's part of my calculus, however much I want to weigh it.
I think that's a good point. The last thing, this may be an overthink. CJ Stroud played with one of the deepest wide receiving cores in college, and maybe they didn't have personalities as big as Stephon Diggs, but like a lot of people.
It's a good counter.
Are
you saying it's a pro or a con?
I'm just saying most people outside of Burrow have never had that situation in college, one, and then a lot of people don't have it in the NFL. He's one of the only guys that played with 3 first-round wide receivers as his wide receiver, so maybe it's just something he may have a little experience with.
I think it's a great point. I'm going to go a step further and say, is it crazy to say that those...
That's a pro, yeah.
No. Let me get my point out.
I think he's going to be on your side. Just wait.
No. I'm going to play devil's advocate. All those, when I think of the Olave, Wilson, JSN, Harrison Jr., low-profile guys. So they actually are not. And Nico and Tank, low-profile guys. What does a Diggs jumping in there? These are just things that we have to talk through because they actually impact the award.
I think we beat that one to death.
So anyone have money on a bet at this point through the conversation?
I'm willing to throw a unit on Josh Allen, but that's it.
But time out. You're not going to bet Josh Allen because you're a Josh Allen hater. You wouldn't root for him.
But that's just due to my friend being the worst.
But that's part of this conversation, 100%. Right?
But
like Tim's the sharp one here. He's trying to win money. We're also trying to win money, but I would never want to win money on Josh Allen.
Yeah, there's a better chance I throw a unit on Stroud and just say fuck it.
Exactly.
All right.
I'm interested. If I had to, with what we've talked about so far, I'd throw a little taste, half unit-ish on Allen.
Okay.
If I had to.
All right.
That leaves us to Lamar Jackson, 14-1. Next guy up on the board. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth guy down. Jack, I'll hand it to you. You can drive this conversation better.
I think we just skip over it.
If you're betting Lamar Jackson, what are you doing? There is no chance he wins the award. From a narrative standpoint, people thought he shouldn't have won it last year. He's a 2-time winner. Only one person didn't vote for him last year, which means he would have been the first 2-time unanimous MVP. These are things Lamar Jackson needs to win in the playoffs. It's as simple as that. If you're betting Lamar, they just added Derrick Henry. I think that opens him up. You get year 2 in Monken's offense, but you just went from being the 1 seed, winning the MVP. How do you repeat? You just don't.
There is a 0% chance Lamar Jackson wins MVP, and I am the biggest Lamar Jackson fan potentially in the world, but there is nothing in the world outside of him leading the league in touchdown passes, rushing touchdowns, and passing yards. There is no scenario where he wins MVP, so we don't even.
I'll
need
even
to
go a
speak
step
about
further.
it.
I don't think he's going to be a fun bet to have this year, similar to how we think Allen will be. You finally have a running back to take the load off him. You finally have given him weapons, which I think increases. Like, I actually think he could be better than years past, but I don't think it leads him to winning MVP.
The pro hosting job right there of sending it over to you guys first, because I'm fascinated that you guys feel that way, and we're not playing the other side of it as idiot fans.
I had the ticket last year, which I was ecstatic about, cashed it. I wouldn't go near it with a 10-foot pole.
They will have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL next year. And I think you brought up a good point, Jack, in that this happens with teams a lot, in that they have already passed every test think of the Celtics of the last decade or so. They have passed every test. We are now just waiting for them to pass the final exam, right? They continue to get all A's during the semester, but they cannot ace the final. And so for him to make the next jump or solidify himself, whatever it may be, it's not winning another MVP. And I think a lot of people view him that way of, I'm waiting for him to win NFL MVP.
Bet the Ravens to go 16-1, 17-0, or to be the number 1 seed, and I think that's your bet. Because that's the only path.
Now we're getting to where I'm ready to start spending some money. Justin Herbert, 22-1. This is a ginormous year for both Herbert and the Chargers. You could probably say it's a ginormous year for the Chargers. You could have played the record over and over. You could have done this the year before that. Probably the entire time I've been alive. But I think the Harbaugh addition is going to be crucial for them. One of the biggest holes that this team had was they could not run the ball to save their life. Their run blocking rated as one of the worst on PFF. Harbaugh, what does that guy do? He builds offensive lines. He coaches offensive lines. And we're in a situation here where this division as well, aside from the Chiefs, a lot of question marks, right? So who is going to be the one that takes over the reins? At 22-1, again, with the team that has one of the easiest schedules, with Harbaugh that is a immediate match in terms of what they didn't do well, I like this guy at 22-1.
Who's starting here?
I'll go. Lamar was the anomaly because of the season he had in 2019 and how good the Ravens were. But Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator, will never, for the rest of his time, and any disciples of Greg Roman, will never support an MVP quarterback.
I disagree with that.
Let me just continue.
But it's the fact that Justin Herbert is not a running quarterback.
Okay, yes, sorry.
He made Kaepernick.
Sorry. He will not support a pass-only quarterback to win MVP. Will Greg Roman make the Chargers significantly better? Yes. Will Jim Harbaugh make them significantly better? Yes. But that'll be as a result of controlling games, controlling the clock, playing better defense, and running the ball, just as you stated, which will in turn make the Chargers a winning football team for once, but will not make Justin Herbert an MVP-level quarterback.
So you're saying the offensive coordinator will make the offense better.
Correct.
Yes.
But not for the quarterback.
Well, they'll put Herbert in better positions to win games.
Standpoint.
He will be 270 and 2 touchdowns a lot of games.
Okay.
That's not going to win him the MVP.
If he went 272 tugs every game, he would be pretty close to MVP.
He's going to throw a pick in there. They're going to run the ball in the red zone. They're going to win games 23-17, and they are going to munch clock, run the ball, play good defense, and not let Herbert. He's not going to just yuck it down the field and make all those throws that you see on Twitter, on the Twitter highlights.
We have Greg Roman PTSD, as you can tell. But I will say, the one Justin Herbert season, the 5,000-yard season, that's what people want. That's the 6'4", with the long blonde hair and the sexy right arm. Wow. That's the MVP season. With Greg Roman, there's no path.
If you made it this far, please subscribe. Hopefully you liked the way the conversation was going. Again, if you made it this far into it, we're going to be doing AFC and NFC Super Bowl odds, working our way down, picks, bets, disagreements, hopefully persuading people, hopefully not Ravens love, but looking forward to that. So stay tuned. Again, subscribe so you don't miss it. The next way we're going to go about this, we're not going to go every single guy until it's 3:30 in the morning here. But let's just group them up around here, right? Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers. That is the between 22-1s and before you get to 30-1. So Jordan Love, 14-1, Dak Prescott, 20-1, Purdy, 18-1, Hurts, 17-1, Aaron Rodgers, 25-1, and then we'll move from there. So if of this group, is there anybody that sticks out to you? They're kind of I think all honestly similar situations and narratives. Honestly, yeah. I'd group like a Dak and a Jalen Hurts in like kind of a similar thing. We know they're talented. They need to win the ultimate prize at this point. Rodgers, bounce back. Are you looking into that, or you want to comeback player of the year, something of that nature? Purdy, conversation's always loaded about him. Jordan Love, he's becoming a bit of a darling in this market. So
CJ Stroud light.
CJ Stroud light, I would say. Yeah, it's funny with Jordan Love. If they had that game he went off against Dallas, like the game that he played, if they had lost, would we have better odds?
Way better. Way better.
Right?
And if people put the loss on Sam Fran on him, which you could have easily made the argument he was not good in that game, maybe. Am I crazy for saying this group, to me, is the same exact as the group above it? Like, I think they all have the equivalent holes, which is why I was so off that top group. And this is where the odds seem to get sexier. I will say, NFL MVPs, there are the Lamar 50-1s. There are, the longer shots, but they do tend to come from this range and better. So while we're trying to deliver you this, incredible value, just keep that in mind that maybe Josh Allen at 9-1 is the play. And sometimes the best players with the best odds win the award.
Let's weed it out like this. Okay. Prescott, Hurts, Purdy. Kind of all.
I'll go. Jalen Hurts. That's the one guy out of that group that I would put money on. I think the narrative's there. I think Kellen Moore, who I'm not a fan of, let me make this clear. I would not bet this, but I definitely see the path.
Let me make this clear. I am betting Jalen Hurts. He's not my number 1 pick, but he is my number 2 pick.
Yeah, you've got Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, a new offensive coordinator, Saquon Barkley, an offensive line that protects him. The defense is revamped. The Cowboys won the division last year, which means a new team's winning the NFC East, so the path is there for the Eagles to go and win the award. So I like Hurts, and I don't think he was, but a lot of people said he was hurt last year, and that was limiting his ability.
He also is being, thrown out of the top 5, top 7 quarterback rankings list. I haven't seen his name at the top of any sort of list. He's being slept on a ton, and if the Eagles are as good as I think they are going to be, he will lead that team, and I think it fits our narrative-driven style that we've been talking about, where he's going to have a massive bounce-back year under a new offensive coordinator, and I think there's a very high chance that they finish number 1 in the NFC, led by Hurts, running and throwing. You get rid of Kelsey. There's questions around that.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Could be.
I mean, it could be. If they get over that in a successful way and they don't have Kelsey, the tush-push, all that, Hurts is my second favorite NFL MVP bet.
So that moves us to this part of the pack. Matt Stafford, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Anthony Richardson, Kirk Cousins. And then you see Christian McCaffrey pop up there, 60-1. But that's the range we're in now. Who sticks out here?
I think Casey. Let's get your best bet.
Yeah, so this is my MVP best bet is Tua. Is Tua.
He's too good.
I'm convinced.
Too good, Tagovailoa.
So my MVP bet is Tua. And do I think he's the most talented quarterback on this list? Absolutely not. Which is, to Tim's point, that's not the conversation. Tua is not him, in fact. But that is not why I'm betting on him. I think this is a fantastic number for a couple reasons. First, we need to go back to last season. How did Lamar Jackson win MVP? It was a little bit of a down year for all MVP candidates, which allow him to fall into it, as we discussed. But more what it is writers, again, headlines, which lead to night games. On Sundays, you can talk about the entire slate. Night games, you have one game to focus on. You have to build interesting stories and headlines that get clicks and attention to those headlines. The Ravens, we beat the Jaguars in primetime. We beat the Chargers in primetime. We beat San Francisco in primetime.
He's not laughing at that.
I know what he's laughing at.
I say Jaguars also.
I'm laughing at
No,
we.
he's laughing at we.
Oh, wait.
No, he has another we.
Are you a Jaguars or Jaguars?
Jags.
If you look at the Ravens season last year, Lamar won multiple games.
I know you're passionate about Tua, but you've started screaming at people, telling them to.
Lamar won multiple games in primetime, finished off with dismantling the Dolphins to win the 1 seed. So I went into it, who has a similar situation where they're going to play a ton of night games, a ton of primetime games, where there's going to be a lot of attention on them, and that is Tua. So a similar situation. The first 11 games of the season, I see them as having between 8 and 9 wins. The Dolphins have an easy start to their season. So then you already get what we talked about, quarterback, and wins. That's where it lines up. Then you go into their schedule.
I thought you used this to debunk my argument.
I'm not done. And then you go to their schedule, but different to Herbert, he is the most offensive-minded head coach. He is the head coach that almost treats it like college. Regardless of how much we're up, we're just going to keep scoring and stat padding like we want to get our guy the Heisman Trophy. He was first in yards last year. He was fifth in touchdowns. I expect something similar to happen, but what happened is he fell off a little bit late. So allow me to share with you the end of their schedule. You have at the Packers in primetime. Then you have against the Jets, against the Jets, which is potentially for the AFC East.
That's an L.
Then you play at the Texans.
That's an L.
Then you play Niners, the 425.
That's an L.
You have the Niners 425 solo game. You have the Browns Sunday
That's
Night
an
Football.
L.
And then you have the Jets, which is most likely going to be a night game.
This is the worst pitch I've ever heard in my life.
Let me paint you the picture. The reason Lamar won is because he had all these primetime games against good teams that he won. So, if Tua wins 5 of these games, clinches the AFC East in primetime against Rodgers, against the Jets, Tua Tagovailoa will be your NFL MVP. He'll have the stats to back it up. He'll be the 2 or the...
Okay, we get it. Are you open-minded to off this bet?
He'll be the 2 or the 3 seed in the AFC, and he will have won in primetime, leading to the conversation of not only does he deserve a contract extension, but he deserves the NFL MVP. I rest my case.
You sound like a high schooler giving like a social studies presentation.
And did you enjoy it?
You just repeated the same thing over and over again. Primetime games.
That's how you win.
You know you have to win the primetime
right.
games, right?
I actually like the primetime handicap because I wasn't thinking a lot about that. Tua, what are we doing?
That's how
Tua led the NFL in passing yards last year. Tua was 5th in touchdowns last year. Tua stayed completely healthy last year. Tua. And Tua's taking a step.
The Miami Dolphins haven't won a play. Tua was in the MVP conversation all year last year.
Correct. That was his chance. He came off the injury and exceeded.
But he lost at the end. If this year he wins at the end, he wins the award.
So was his star receiver. Right. People were willing to pick his star receiver before they picked him.
But there's so many question marks. This year, the spotlight is on Tua because he doesn't have that contract extension. All the conversation is going to be about the AFC East because it's fun to talk about. Is Josh going to be able to carry the Bills? Is Rodgers back and going to be able to? AFC East is going to be under a microscope, including with Tua, Allen, and Rodgers. If they win the AFC
Are you open-minded to this or no?
My last thing, I'm big on the primetime games winning you MVP. We talked about Mahomes. The only one that has a similar situation is Mahomes. There could be a live opportunity on Mahomes about halfway through the year. If he gets to a good number, he finishes the season with a ton of primetime games, and that could win him MVP. So that's a little mid-season live wager opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah, break me down.
Okay.
I know. I hit you with a lot of wheeze.
I'm a bit of a Tua hater.
Sure.
But I don't think that he can't win the MVP. Right?
Okay.
I'm not going to sit here and say no chance. I think the best part of your argument should have been this is a guy who led the league in passing. This guy who was 5th in touchdowns. His offense is loaded. They want to be quarterback friendly as you can be.
Exactly.
We have all those guarantees. And this is a guy who's still 30-1. Like, that should have been your pitch. Not the fact that he's playing primetime games.
Yeah, the schedule. Every time you said, I thought you should be 40-1, then 50-1.
The primetime games is literally my number one reason.
I think the best thing that could happen to Tua is if they play at 1 o'clock every Sunday and the guy just throws for 350
I think you're completely wrong.
3 touchdowns.
That doesn't create headlines.
And just everyone looks at the stat sheet and goes, well, this guy keeps running.
It doesn't create headlines.
Okay.
Lamar's stat lines, if he had played at 1, wouldn't have created the conversations that his stat lines did by winning in primetime last year.
And that game against Baltimore, which you stated, killed Brock Purdy's MVP chances.
Yep.
So as much as
it'll kill it. But I'm not looking for someone.
Why don't you just roll it over?
I'm not looking for someone to finish third.
Why don't you just bet the Dolphins in all 6 of those games?
He's going to finish first or last, and I like that.
Like, I honestly really don't hate the bet. I might even bet it myself. I hate your reasoning. I'm disgusted by your reasoning.
The other quarterbacks in this category, I'll throw names. I don't like Stafford. I see the path for Goff. I actually think he's like the prototypical path, which is Lions get the 1 seed, and he looks good with the weapons. T-Law, he's kind of Herbert at 14 or 22 to 1, down at 35 to 1 for me. I could see the Jags being good in what I consider maybe the weakest division in the AFC. Again, like any argument you made for Herbert, I would make for Trevor Lawrence.
And that's why he's my other bet.
Okay. All right. Align
You have a type. Long hair, big arm.
Quarterbacks, baby. We call those quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think, again, similar reasoning for Lawrence. I think I don't want to put too much into the, like, losing Ridley. I think that the offense for, like, it's on Trevor Lawrence now, you know, and if he balls out 35 to 1, I think that to have a number like that in your pocket, to me, feels really good. And I like bets like this too, especially at 35 to 1. If he sucks, I get to just be like, well, this guy sucks. I'm done with him.
Right. Yeah, no, you can
because we're already on the precipice of like being done with Lawrence.
You kind of make yourself a Jags GM at that point.
Right.
It's like, all right, this is the year, you know, we either betting on Lawrence long term or we're just acknowledging he's not this Hall of Fame quarterback. I said in college, I was like, this guy's a surefire Hall of Famer. Like, give him the gold jacket now. I still believe in that, and that's why I would be there at 35 to 1. But it is starting to leak into my brain a little bit that maybe he's not that.
Yeah,
like maybe he's just like pretty good, but not great.
I have one bet on Justin Herbert, and I have another bet on a guy who's about to be Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
So, I feel good about betting talent. These are two of the most purely talented guys on the board. Unlike Tua.
100%.
No A-Rich, no Kirk, no McCaffrey.
Richardson, I love his game. I think he's a good fantasy option with the legs, all that. I don't know if he can stay healthy for the whole season.
I agree.
Hello, Caleb.
We've made it to this part of the board, and Jack still hasn't given his favorite MVP bet.
People's eyes are falling out of their head watching this, so please bless us with.
Yeah, if you were wondering why I'm wearing an Arizona Cardinals polo, which they gave me, it's very nice. It's not because I'm betting Kyler Murray for MVP, but I am doing that. Kyler Murray for MVP. Shall I head to my notes here? The Cardinals are projected 7 wins in 2024. So as we've discussed, they need to get into that 10, 11, maybe even 12 category. It does set a low floor for expectations, so I think we've got a little value there. 11 wins plus 710. Reminder, Kyler Murray plus 5,000 to win the MVP award. To make the playoffs plus 320. To win the division, which I would argue they don't have to, similar to how Herbert would. I don't think they have to. They got to be in the running, though. It's got to come down to maybe that final game, which, if it does, they probably got to beat the Niners. That's who they play in the final week. Kyler Murray, I see a lot of similarities to the Lamar Jackson tag with injury prone. Kyler Murray, out of 83 possible games, he's played in 65 of them. He had only missed 2 games prior to the ACL injury. That's why he's missed time in the last 2 seasons. That, to me, is, do you put a Burrow injury-prone tag on him, or was it a freak injury? You're betting on a player who's a 2-time Pro Bowler. He's one of 4 quarterbacks ever with 15,000 passing yards and 2,000 rushing yards in his first 5 seasons. Last year, the Cardinals without Murray are ranked 27th on offense. With Murray, they're ranked 9th, averaging 70 more yards per game and 5 more points per game. The Cardinals are, at this similar point to Lawrence. I wouldn't say that the Chargers are with Herbert, but is this guy worth the money? Is he a franchise quarterback, or did he have a couple good years? Kyler Murray went 57-3 in high school and college. So he's a winner. I don't think he likes to lose. You know who likes to lose?
Herbert.
Cliff Kingsbury. He just shedded the worst coach of all time. He finally has gotten on the other side of that. And I'm gonna say something that Eagles fans probably won't agree with here. I like Gannon's freak a little bit. He's a weirdo. That video of him walking through the facility, he's a strange guy. Dan Campbell's a strange guy. And when you're winning, people like strange guys.
Mike McDaniel.
Exactly. And when you're losing, okay, this guy's a freak. It's not exciting.
Give it up.
We talked a lot about this buying opportunity and this value. So at 50 to 1, I think it's a good ticket to have. I will say the Cardinals start the season with a gauntlet.
Yeah.
And I think so. I've marked 2 dates. I've set calendar reminders in my phone because this is what these are the 2 dates. October 14th, they then go Chargers, Dolphins, Bears, Jets. It's not a gauntlet depending on how you think those teams are going to be. Those 4 teams could be very, very good, and that could be the gauntlet. Those teams could be average. This is how they close the season, though. Not in prime time, but this is how they close. Seattle, Minnesota, Seattle, Patriots, Panthers, Rams. The final game is the Niners. The Niners could be the 1 seed, could be resting. Or instead of betting on Tua Tagovailoa to win 6 primetime games against 6 of the best teams in the league, he might have to win 1 game for the NFC West, which would lock in Kyler Murray to win the division, or to win MVP rather. Gannon's a defensive coach. I think that their defense can get better. They invested on defense with a first-round draft pick, and they made 4 free agent signings at key positions. And
who?
They got Sean Murphy-Bunting. They got Mack at linebacker.
Darius Robinson.
And that's the draft pick, right?
Yeah, DM.
Yeah. And
Is that Chop?
What?
Is that Chop Robinson, the Penn State guy?
No, Missouri.
Yeah, he's Missouri.
Oh.
And last but not least, they added Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think is going to be a stud from day one. Jamar Chase type shit. So for all those reasons, I like Kyler now at 50-1, just in case they beat Buffalo week 1 and you never see that number again. And I like Kyler Murray on about November 11th as the leaves are falling off the trees, and he'll be like 125-1. They go win 6 of 7. They make this run to the playoffs, and Kyler Murray's your MVP.
Now that's a case. That's a guy who knows how to make a case. I like that. I think that's an interesting look. I think there's no doubt about Kyler Murray's talent, right? And one of the big knocks on him, especially, yes, the health, but he hasn't finished season strong as a smaller guy.
Huge thing.
But that schedule being soft at the end hopefully helps him.
And
Timeout, though. It's soft, but it's also like the Cardinals. It's not like they're going to be favored by 6-7 points in all these games.
They won't.
They're going to be underdogs.
They're only favorites in 4 to 5 of them.
Could have said the same thing about Houston last year.
Right. And look at where Houston landed in the last 6 games. Then they were favorites.
And did CJ win the MVP?
No, because
He's
CJ's
pretty damn close, man. Like,
Not really, though.
He was a rookie.
He was certainly in the mix as one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
This handicap and the odds are part of this is that I think by the end of the season, the Cardinals are in the running for an 11 or 12 win season.
Lead us.
I've hit plenty of Super Bowl futures, though. So that's
We'll get there. Yeah,
That's a
little
good
teaser.
plug. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Jack. This is Casey.
I'm Tim. It's a wrap.